Handshake, and we're off. Magnus Carlsen, he starts with the king's pawn instead, so veering away from that double queen's gambit, and we see Nakamura employ the Petrov defense. Solid stuff. And again, the Damiano variation that we saw yesterday, he employed this with success. What do you think, Robert?
It's one of these decisions where either Magnus looked at Hikaru's games because he played this yesterday, or he didn't look at it because it's so ridiculous that he would play this at the highest level. And Hikaru, well, what risk does he have right now? That being said, it's an equal position on move 4, move 5, who cares? It's Magnus Carlsen. He's proven time and time again he can somehow squeeze water out of a stone. Will he be able to in this Armageddon game? That's the big question.
Yeah, and interesting that Magnus doesn't go for any forcing lines, any direct lines. We saw complicated battles in this variation yesterday. Magnus says, my approach in this Armageddon is to slowly outplay you later and maybe hustle you on the clock. It's very strategic, very slow right now. Actually, this is a well-known position with colors reversed, and it's odd to see the white knight stay on e5 in the Petrov defense. Looks like Nakamura's prepared, though, playing super quick up to this point, only spending a few seconds. Magnus brings his bishop out. Slight advantage because he has that centralized knight. He has the first move in these types of symmetrical positions.
And it is about fighting that knight on e5 with your own pieces as black here, expecting Hikaru to line up his rook on the e-file, develop his own knight to c6, try to trade off that very strong piece that is posted on e5. The task is clear for both these players. Magnus has no choice but to keep the game going. He has to try and keep as many pieces on the board, but one set of minor pieces will come off in the center of the board.
That's very likely, but it's hard to know when to capture it, because if black captures that knight on e5 at some moment, a pawn will replace the knight, and then there will be attacking chances for white, namely with that bishop on d3. So I think Magnus, he needs to play a little bit quickly here. Hikaru, with 9 minutes remaining on his clock, I think he's off to the best start imaginable.
Yeah, Hikaru will be thrilled. He might not look it. I'm not sure what face number that is of Hikaru's right now.
345.
Oh, Danny might tell you off for that one. But shielding the glare of Magnus, but he's solid, and that's all he can ask for.
Solid is the name of the game right now with the Petrov defense. Rook has lined up. We are expecting a knight development. And meanwhile, Magnus takes his time, but he's got to be careful because he has to keep the pressure on the clock as well. If the clocks level out, then it's just result odds for white. And Hikaru does not develop the knight, but strikes immediately in the center, targeting the main defense of that e5 knight.
Huge decision, though, because if Magnus just captures the pawn that was placed on c5, there will be an isolated queen pawn for Hikaru. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but when you don't have so much time, I think players tend to struggle protecting that pawn. You operate around it, that's true, but defending it, that's a different story.
Yeah, big decision, as you mentioned, Robert, to change the pawn structure. I just don't know whether Hikaru is playing for the result or... Sorry, I'll let you take it away there.
You're absolutely right here. c5 is a very committal move.